Claire Varley and welcome back to the home of EDFL Web TV, the Pascoe Vale Hotel. This season we'll be coming to you weekly right here on the EDFL YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all our videos. It's been another big week of EDFL footy, so let's jump straight into the big issues of the week.
Thanks, Claire. Yes, we're here at EDFL HQ this week. Pellizzeri and Adem Russell. We're about to jump into the EDFL podcast and discuss the points system. We actually have this week the very interesting tallies of what clubs' points would be through the first month and a half of the season. We'll break it down. We'll talk about what the ideal number should be. We'll talk about the salary cap in context as well. We're in that experimental phase at the moment, and that is all being discussed on the EDFL Web TV podcast this week. You can click through and see it on the EDFL Web TV channel. But Adem Russell joins me. Adem, welcome.
Thank you, Teo.
We are here to talk about one of the Queen's Birthday weekend blockbuster games, the feature up at Goonawarra, East Sunbury taking on Jacana. And as we go to the highlights, what were some of the things you took away from this contest? Because even though it was close on the scoreboard, it didn't actually feel that close in the last quarter when East Sunbury were kicking against the scoring end in the final term.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people going into the game would have considered Jacana pretty strong favourites, but East Sunbury, they came out, they gave it a crack, and really, until almost the final siren, they sort of looked in it.
Now, goal kicking was a big issue for both teams. Bryce Kimmelidis actually threw himself into the back line in the third quarter to play in defence when Jacana were defending against the scoring end, and he kicked 2 goals. One of them was from a 50-metre penalty. The other one, as we're seeing in the footage, was from a great contested mark. And East Sunbury, by contrast, just lacked that target to kick to inside forward 50, and as we saw, whenever they had a promising move or an exciting break down the field, they just kept kicking it to Jacana defenders, and that delivery inside forward 50 really cost them any chance of pulling off the upset here.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at Kimmo, he was the only multiple goal scorer on the day, and I think that sort of summed up the feel of the game. It was hard to kick goals. I think the delivery going inside 50 wasn't great, and that just didn't help out the forwards, unfortunately.
What about some of the match winners for Jacana? Because East Sunbury, when they were going against the scoring end, really set their stall out to defend. The game had a real feeling as though they were holding on against the floodgates from opening, and that moment, to be fair, never really arrived, so credit to East Sunbury in a defensive capacity. But Jacana really had to work hard to go out and win the game. There were numbers behind the ball, there were taggers on some of their better players, but who do you actually think broke through and helped Jacana win this match?
Yeah, all credit to East Sunbury. Their defensive efforts was really good. It was a high-intensity game. But I think for Jacana, Beau Naim was the one that really stand out for me. He was such an accumulator over the weekend. Lots of touches inside and outside, as well as Michael Evans and, as we mentioned, Kibbo really did stand up for them.
And East Sunbury, of course, they have the one win this year, but Jacana, they're still in a position where they can make finals, and they would have gone up to Goonawarra hoping for percentage. That wasn't to be. They're in a position now where their percentage is more than 100 worse than a couple of the teams in the top 4, so I really think the only way they're going to play finals is if they win their way in by taking wins off those other top 4 teams. Based on what we've seen at the weekend, are you convinced that they can roll Moonee Valley again, that they could upset maybe Coburg Districts or Roxburgh Park and find a way to win their way into the top 4 even with a percentage that's well short? So of course it's basically worth another win. They can't afford to finish level on win-loss with one of those other teams in the top 4.
Yeah, definitely. While they did take the 4 points on the weekend, they definitely need to play a lot better coming up against those other top 4 sides. I've seen a little bit of Division 2 so far this season. Looking at the way Roxburgh Park and Hadfield have gone about their footy, Jacana would want to up their standard from what they showed at the weekend.
Well, let's hear what the coaches had to say, and also our Sportsmoves Best On Ground, Beau Naim. They caught up with us in the broadcast van after the match. Let's hear some of the highlights.
I'm not a big lad, so all I do is run. So the bigger grounds help me. I mean, I can get in more space and stuff like that. So, you know, especially when I'm getting tagged, just put on the burners and trying to, you know, get out in open space. I think that's the only thing that I can really try to do. Yeah, we wanted to, you know, run them over in the last quarter, but I think we didn't play our best footy today, but it was good as a unit that, you know, we could still scrap it out and get that half-foot win. Like Imo was saying in that wrap-up speech there, he said, you know, good teams aren't going to play good every game. You know, sometimes you've got to grind it out, and that's what we did today.
Oh, very frustrating. I was just waiting for our boys to, I don't know, just get some type of momentum going. But credit to Sunbury, they just kept at it and just scragged it out, and that's what it looked like to me. It was just a scraggy game of football.
How would you rate your team's performance out of 10?
Oh, about a 4. Very, like I said to them, 4 points is 4 points. We'll take that, but we're not going to get far in this competition with playing a standard like that. I think you've got to take something out of today. The last 2 weeks we have been punched up a little bit. So we've got to take something out of today. ugly as it was, yeah, it's 4 points. So, you know, we could have folded, but we didn't. We battled on hard, just as hard as they did, and we ended up with the 4 points. So, yep, take something out of this. I've put it on the side in the rooms there. I want them to take ownership of this week and really come out with some type of game plan for themselves.
Yeah, especially probably the third quarter. We controlled the game, and just our decision making going forward, as you say, the last kick going into our 50. It's been a problem all year with this young group, but we just keep putting in the effort what we put in today. It's hopefully it'll turn the corner. I did say to the group that we have to come every week with that intensity, that work rate, and the pressure that we put on them. If we can do that for 4 quarters, that was our best performance this year by far. Because that's the hardest thing, is these boys just don't have the belief at the moment themselves that I can play football. But they showed today that they're around the mark.
Steve Gray, the East Sunbury coach there, and you can hear those interviews in full as part of the EDFL Web TV podcast. Just click through on the EDFL YouTube channel. So that's it for Division 2. Let's move on to Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. Adem, just the one game played at Canning Reserve. At quarter time, the score was a bit of a worry. Avondale Heights were absolutely blowing away Airport West. It balanced out a little bit after that, but in the end, an arm's length win, 7 or 8 goals Avondale Heights' way. I suppose the one promising thing for Airport West is against a pretty good team in Avondale. They've still been able to kick 100 points, and that scoring will hold them in good stead, I assume, for their future games, which will be absolutely crucial against the likes of Northern Saints and West Coburg.
Yeah, most definitely. I think one of the things Airport West have struggled with this year is kicking a big score, and to score 100 points against one of the considered better teams in the competition, I think they'll take a lot away from that game.
And of course, Avondale Heights, they know they've got no margin for error from here, saying as much in leader newspapers this week. You can check out the match report there via the EDFL Facebook page. We've got the links up to what the club had to say after winning on the Queen's birthday Saturday, but really no margin for error left for Avondale Heights, and they need to take a big scalp. They got the job done against Airport West. That's what they needed to do. Now they need to keep winning against other teams above them on the table to keep any hope of getting into the top 4 alive. And as we know, their draw gets considerably tougher because they have Pascoe and Greenvale back-to-back when we go back around for the second lot of head-to-head contests. Adem, just a final word on what you've seen in Division 2. We're staying in Division 2, and Adem Saricaoglu and Dave Kennedy are coming up next for the weekend preview. But what are you looking forward to when Roxburgh Park takes on Coburg Districts at Cole Reserve? You've seen Roxburgh Park recently, so how do you think that match might pan out?
Well, I think Roxburgh Park, I had them in my grand final a couple of weeks ago in the week preview. I think they'll still play grand final footy. It'll be a good contest to come up against a strong side like Coburg Districts, and I'm looking forward to it. It
should be a cracker this weekend at Cole Reserve. To look forward to that and all the other weekend games in prospect for round 9. Stay with us right here on EDFL Web TV. Why should your company advertise on EDFL Web TV? EDFL Web TV reaches an audience drawing from the biggest sporting body in Melbourne's expanding northwestern suburban corridor, with over 9,000 participants and tens of thousands of families and fans distributed on a network reaching thousands of tech-savvy social media subscribers. EDFL Web TV can present your company's product or service in a top-of-the-show billboard, similar to a network TV sports broadcast, either with vision or still graphics. Sponsored segments are available and can be integrated into the regular week-to-week show. EDFL Web TV is also compatible with conventional TV ads, either professionally made or made by the EDFL. Customise your advertising package to reach the EDFL Web TV and social media audience today. And so as we switch to weekend preview mode, Adem Saricaoglu and Dave Kennedy join me on the panel here at EDFL HQ. Dave, great to see you back on EDFL Web TV after about a month's absence, but great to have you back.
Great to be back, and looking forward to getting into the footy again this weekend.
And let's start with the broadcast game. Strathmore Community Bank Division 2. Roxburgh Park taking on Coburg Districts, heading to Cole Reserve. We went there in pre-season, Adem Saricaoglu, to get our first look at the setup for what it might be like on a match day, and sure enough, we're back within 10 weeks because Coburg Districts have captured our attention, and really last time Roxburgh Park played against them, holding Coburg Districts to just 2 goals for the afternoon. I think we're going to get a much closer game this time around, or at least Coburg Districts will certainly be hoping so.
Yeah, well, Coburg Districts been off the radar a little bit, but they've certainly earned the broadcast game. Really looking forward to this. We're looking for basically contenders to challenge Hadfield, and these are probably the leading two challenges right now. So perhaps second flag favouritism is on the line at Coal Reserve on the weekend.
Dave, let's move on to your tip for this game, and then I want your tip for Keilor Park versus Hadfield as well. How are you feeling about the top end of the ladder, the top three this weekend? Who will be joining Hadfield up the top? And are Hadfield any risk of dropping their game against Keilor Park?
I'll start with that game. Hadfield, I think they'll win and win reasonably comfortably. But going back to the Roxburgh Park game, it's interesting that they go into it 5-3 record against Coburg District 6-2, and I would still say that recent form against Coburg Districts is the winning form. So I think Roxburgh Park will win. Moonee
Valley taking on East Sunbury now. Adam, Moonee Valley's percentage is considerably lower than some of the other teams, Coburg Districts and also Hadfield at the top of this division. They need a booster here. Can they get it at home against East Sunbury?
Yeah, I think so. East Sunbury, obviously it sounds like they ran Jacana pretty close on the weekend, but there's still obviously a long, long way off these top sides. So I think Moonee Valley, they're coming off a almost 200-point win on the weekend against Burnside Heights. They'll do a pretty similar number on the Thunder, you'd think.
And Dave, Jacana versus Burnside Heights. Jacana need the percentage. Burnside Heights have actually lost 3 games in their last 4. They had the win against Keilor Park in there, but their other losses have been 150 plus, all 3 of them. So when it goes bad, it goes really bad. Can Jacana break Burnside's resistance and kick away to 3 figures, or do you feel as though Burnside will be buoyed by what East Sunbury did and can actually hang around with the Jacka for another week?
I think that's the problem with having a big sort of stirring win is sometimes there's a little bit of a come down, but you'd sort of feel like that period of time is over now for Burnside Heights. It's time for them to refocus and put in a big effort this week. I hope that the margin is doesn't blow out for their sake, and hopefully that they start to sort of rebuild towards another win.
Let's go to Essendon Ford at Division 1. Stop me if either of you are tipping Taylor's Lakes to beat Craigieburn at Lionheart Reserve. I think Craigieburn deservedly starts favourite there to maintain their unbeaten run at the top of the table. Do you want to jump in on Taylor's Lakes there, maybe, Adam?
Just on Taylor's Lakes, they have had 2 weeks off now, so a long time to think about this game with the obviously Queen's birthday, and they had the bye, which every club gets 2 of during the season. So we'll see how they respond, because I know they're underperforming based on their own expectations. So we'll see how they go against the benchmark, but I'm still tipping Craigieburn.
Now, battle of second versus third. Essendon Duda Stars taking on Oak Park. Oak Park will finish the week in second. If they can roll Dudas here, are they any chance of going to Nipper Jordan and getting the win to become the second place team in the league?
I still sort of feel like there's a bit of a gap between Duda Stars, Craigieburn and the rest of the competition, but who knows? It's sort of everyone coming off a bit of a break and mid-season. This is when sort of concentration slips in some camps and other camps find that winning formula. So maybe Oak Park might be in with a chance. I'd still be hard-pressed to tip against Duda Stars.
And Adam, what are your thoughts there? Dudas comfortably, Oak Park in an upset, or maybe Dudas in a close one?
Yeah, Dudas, but I'm not sure if this one will be a close one, Teo. I think it'll be relatively comfortable. I know they've come off a good win against Tullamarine, but they're very up and down, Tulla, as are Oak Park themselves. I mean, they weren't all that competitive against Craigieburn a couple of weeks ago. So Dudas, who are probably unlucky to be 5-1 in the first place, I probably should have beaten Craigieburn all those weeks ago on Anzac Day. Now they perhaps should be the undefeated team in the division. I think they will beat Oak Park pretty easily.
And the other 2 games, we've got Tullamarine taking on East Keilor. Tulla probably the favourites here, but East Keilor have been very good value so far this season. Briefly, guys, Tulla or East Keilor, who do you like at Leo Deneen?
Definitely Tulla. East Keilor, I'm just fearful they might be starting to tail a little bit after a good start to the year.
Yeah, I think Tullamarine deserved favourites. I think that they should win and win reasonably comfortably.
And do either of you want to tip Hillside in an upset against West Meadows here, or does the West Meadows revival continue at the Sharks' expense?
Yeah, West Meadows pretty comfortably, unfortunately.
Yeah, I hope Hillside are competitive. I think that was the last game that I called with you guys, was that Hillside emphatic win, that incredible win. So, look, I hope Hillside are competitive, but I think West Meadows for me.
Let's finish with Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division, and this week we've got a bit of a battle of the haves and have-nots in some of these matchups, none more so than Greenvale versus the Northern Saints. Now, we've talked about Greenvale losing the 76 points off their final tally against Strathmore, but guys, just a brief thought here about what might happen when they take on the Northern Saints. Will they come out and try to win by as much as possible, make up some of that percentage, or do you think just play their natural game? If they win by 200, fine. If they win by 100, fine. If they win by 60 or less, fine. Is there any chance here that Northern Saints can run them close, or do Greenvale really just come out and chase that percentage that has been taken off them?
Yeah, no, I think Greenvale, they're running on all cylinders right now. Very, very smooth out. I think we saw them against Strathmore a couple of weeks ago and completely dominated, and even after those circumstances happened after the head count, they still completely blitzed the reigning premier in the final term. But good luck to the Northern Saints after what's obviously been a very difficult fortnight or so. And
Dave Kennedy, I want to ask you about West Coburg hosting Keilor. This one, you look at West Coburg, they've struggled to kick big scores this year, so have Keilor. Maybe it's the sort of situation where West Coburg will think this is where we could potentially steal an upset, win an arm wrestle. Do you see that happening here, or do you think Keilor just have a bit too much depth and class to be able to be troubled in this one?
Yeah, I think class is probably the right word for it. I think West Coburg are always going to give a reasonably sort of thorough effort and a consistent effort, but I think that Keilor, just across the park, they've got a couple of really good tools that will give them marking options up forward, and I think that they'll probably be too good for West Coburg.
And Adem, Maribyrnong Park versus Pascoe Vale, these were do-or-die relegation battles last season. The pressure's off to an extent this year, but if Marby were to jag an upset here, that would make them, I think, the new best contender for fourth spot. So do you see any possibility of a Marby upset here? We saw how badly Marby lost to Greenvale and Aberfeldy against the other member of the Big Three. Do we see a similar sort of scoreline this weekend?
This one might be interesting, Teo. Funny things might happen after a bye and after teams have their weeks off. So this one might be closer than perhaps a lot of people think, but I haven't seen enough evidence yet that Maribyrnong Park can run over the top of Pascoe Vale, who have been pretty much flawless apart from a bad day at Clifton Park.
And speaking of Clifton Park, Aberfeldy hosting Strathmore. It's the grand final rematch. Of course, being in round 9 means a lot has changed since last year's grand final. Rather than a coin flip, we have a clear favourite and a clear underdog, and we probably weren't expecting that at the start of the season when we looked at the recruiting that both these teams had done. We thought they would both be powerhouses. Instead, really, this is Strathmore's chance to come out and win us all back, but Aberfeldy are unbeaten and a juggernaut for a very good reason, and I can only see them winning this at arm's length. Adem, what do you think will happen at Clifton Park?
Again, we've been asking perhaps for a bit of a response now from Strathmore for a couple of weeks, and we didn't really see it against Greenvale even after they were given a very, very handy advantage late in that game. I want to see a response from Strathmore. I really, really do. I want to see what they're made of. Is it upstairs, or have they simply not got enough talent out on the park at the moment? I think it's the former. So I really want to see them take it up, but Aberfeldy, you just can't really fault them right now, and I reckon they'll continue on their merry way.
And Dave, last year's grand final was an absolute classic. Unfortunately, it seems as though we're not going to get something similar this weekend. If form is any sort of a guide, can Strathmore dig deep and reach back into those memories, or maybe even for the very first time this year, try to tap into some of the mental demons for Aberfeldy and maybe try to expose something in this Aberfeldy team that otherwise has largely looked untouchable, with of course the exception of their very good comeback win against Greenvale in round 1.
One thing that I've noticed about the way Strathmore plays is that they're reasonably good still on the inside. I think they're just lacking a little bit on the outside. So maybe if they can win some of the early contests and really win the early one-on-ones, they might be able to mentally rattle Aberfeldy in the early part. But I still think it's probably a bit of a long shot. You feel like this is the new Abbas. This is an Abbas that are a lot more consistent, and they probably have a better mental approach this year than last year. I think they'll probably win and win comfortably.
Well, guys, thank you for your thoughts on the weekend ahead. Of course, the broadcast van will be at Cole Reserve for Coburg Districts versus Roxburgh Park in Strathmore Community Bank Division 2. You can listen on Northwest FM 98.9 or via the official smartphone app of the league, Team App. We are closing in on 1,200 members of Team App. You get the record, you get direct access to the radio as well. It's really the best way to follow the league on match day. Make sure you click through to the EDFL Web TV YouTube page because, of course, we have the podcast this week with the full discussion of the points cap and the proposed salary cap, and also an in-depth look at some of the points tallies that clubs would have if they were to be running around with the tallies and the cap activity in place this season. So a very interesting and in-depth discussion on all of that. On behalf of this week's crew, Adam Russell, Adem Saricaoglu and Dave Kennedy, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel to get updates as soon as they go online. My name's Pellizzeri, and thanks for watching this week.
That's it for this edition of EDFL Web TV. Make sure to subscribe to this channel to get all our updates as soon as they go online. I'm Varley, and we'll see you back here at the Pascoe Vale Hotel soon.